Part 52, Junhua's disappearance triggered the war. Boss, do you really want to kill Prince Junhua? He is the prince of the Holy Dynasty. If the Holy Dynasty survives this crisis, the emperor of the Holy Dynasty will never let us go. A masked man in black stared at him. Junhua's back, asked the companion beside him. The Holy Dynasty is now in turmoil. If they can survive, this lord will unscrew his head and deliver it to the emperor of the Holy Dynasty in person. Another black-clothed masked man was not afraid of the current Holy Dynasty, and scolded his companions. Be bolder. If our business is successful, we won't have to worry about it for the rest of our life. As long as Prince Junhua died in the Jinghe kingdom, they would get 100,000 gold. 100,000 gold. Enough for them to eat, drink and play for a lifetime. The masked man in black thought of 100,000 gold. His eyes twinkled. For the sake of 100,000 taels of gold, what are you afraid of taking a risk? The big deal is to take the money to go to the Wangyu dynasty, and be unrestrained for a lifetime. Thinking this way, his expression became more and more ruthless. And there was no trace of warmth in his eyes when he looked at Prince Junhua. There were more than 2 men in black hiding in the dark. There were no less than 20 men in black hiding along the way. They all stared at Prince Junhua's figure. The tense atmosphere filled the whole street, making Wei Feng feel a trace of unease. My prince. It seems that someone is following us. Wei Feng's expression revealed a trace of unease. Prince Junhua knew for a long time that someone would kill him, and then put the blame on Jinghe kingdom, so that the contradiction between the two countries could be aroused. The Holy Dynasty will definitely choose to forbearance, but Jinghe kingdom is afraid of the strength of the Holy Dynasty. Afraid that the Holy Dynasty will survive this crisis and send troops to them. So the Jinghe kingdom will definitely launch an attack when the Holy Dynasty and the nomadic dynasty are fighting, and win it in one fell swoop. Holy Dynasty. This move of the Wangyu dynasty is quite clever. Using a knife to kill people can easily disintegrate the strength of the Holy Dynasty. He looked at the blue sky and found that today's sky was exceptionally blue, and the refreshing breeze was refreshing. He knew that he was going to die this time, so he was ready for death. Now, he only hopes that his brother really has the secret weapon to defeat the nomadic dynasty, otherwise the Holy Dynasty will really not escape the danger of destroying the country this time. The group left the capital of the Jinghe kingdom, and there were hundreds of troops of the Holy Dynasty standing outside the city. They respectfully greeted Junhua, who came out of the city gate. Junhua didn't say much. He got into the carriage and headed for the border of the Jinghe kingdom. In the afternoon and evening, the army of the Holy Dynasty slowly walked on the forest path. It was unusually quiet on the forest path. There was no bird chirping or insect chirping. There was a faint chill in the air, and the repressed horses became a little irritable. Be vigilant and protect the prince at all times. Wei Feng, who was at the forefront, was riding on the back of a horse, holding the long sword in his hands tightly, and said loudly, "Here." The troops surrounding the carriage also felt the tension of the coming mountains and rain. All of them put their hands on the weapons around their waists, and paid attention to their surroundings. Suddenly, a high-pitched shout of "Kill" suddenly sounded, and then hundreds of people in black and masked rushed out from both sides of the road, rushing towards Prince Junhua's army. The sound of shouting "Kill" is overwhelming, giving people a sense of oppression. Junhua, who was sitting in the carriage, heard the harsh sound of swords colliding. He slowly picked up the sword beside him, and walked out of the carriage. He lifted the curtain of the car, and a black shadow quickly killed him. He raised his sword and blocked it easily, blocking the opponent's blow with ease. When Wei Feng and Wei An saw that someone dared to attack their prince, The two got rid of the enemy in front of them and killed the man in black who dared to attack Junhua. For a time, the scene was chaotic, and the sound of weapons colliding with clattering sounded. And Junhua had to draw his sword to fight. Wei An, Wei Quan, Wei Yan escort the prince to escape the encirclement. Wei Feng fought against 3 enemies by himself. But he still commanded calmly and forcefully. Yes, the 3 named came to Junhua immediately and escorted Junhua out of the encirclement. The leader of the men in black saw Junhua escape from the encirclement and roared, "Kill Prince Junhua!" All the men in black turned around and chased after Prince Junhua. When the Holy Dynasty's army saw this, they were not afraid of death to drag the enemy in front of them, and they would not pursue them. In an instant, countless casualties and countless soldiers of the Holy Dynasty fell to the sword of the man in black. The people in black killed their opponents and turned around to chase after Prince Junhua and the others. The Longchen sword in Wei Feng's hand is like a demon who is addicted to people. One sword kills one life. All enemies close to him are turned into dead souls under the sword. Raising his eyes, he saw dozens of men in black chasing Junhua. He ignored the enemy in front of him and ran towards Junhua. But he was so distracted that he was hit by 2 swords. He ignored the pain and ran towards Junhua. Junhua, who was guarded by Wei An and others to escape, looked at the enemy who was getting closer and closer, and a trace of fatigue appeared on his face. He looked at the gap that suddenly appeared in front of him, and knew that it was unavoidable to escape today. "My prince, what should I do?" Wei An looked at the gap of tens of meters in front of him and cried, "It's all my fault. It's all my fault that I chose the wrong road. If he didn't choose the wrong road at the fork just now, he wouldn't kill the prince." "Wei An, don't blame yourself. Maybe there is a dead end at the end of the other road." Junhua looked at the dozens of men in black who were chasing after him, and said boldly, "Even if you die, you have to die more heroically." He held the Longchen sword in his hand. The bright sword body shone with icy cold light. He looked at the masked man in black at the head. His eyes suddenly turned cold, and he took the lead in attacking. "I swear to protect the prince," Wei An shouted, killing the man in black with red eyes. For a time, the battle was tragic. And the blood foam stars splashed everywhere, dyeing the path covered with dead leaves red. Seeing that Junhua and several people were surrounded by dozens of men in black, they were in danger. Wei Feng came to kill him. In a moment, he forcibly cut a bloody path and shouted at Wei An, who was surrounded by the circle, "Wei An, Lord Hu, go first, we will break it later." The devil came out. He knew that the prince must not die in the Jinghe kingdom. Otherwise the Jinghe kingdom would be afraid of the Holy Dynasty and would definitely join forces with the nomadic dynasty to attack the Holy Dynasty. Wei An glanced at Wei Feng, who was covered in injuries, and there were tears in his eyes. He nodded solemnly, "Even if Wei An dies, I must escort the prince safely out of the Jinghe kingdom. There is a difference. Grab Junhua's hand, follow behind Wei Feng, and fight out of the encirclement." As soon as he got out of the encirclement, Wei An led Junhua to the dense forest next to him. Running in the rugged jungle, Junhua almost fell several times. He looked back and saw that Wei Feng and the others were quickly engulfed by the men in black. And the remaining 20 or so men in black saw that Prince Junhua had escaped, and hurriedly chased them away. Wei An turned his head and looked at the looming enemies behind the thorny jungle. He knew that they would be overtaken by the enemies behind him soon. Looking at the flickering enemy, he gritted his teeth, took off Junhua's coat, and under Junhua's astonishment, he quickly put it on himself. "My prince, take care." After speaking, he covered his sleeve with his sleeve. He kept his face, deliberately exposed his whereabouts, and ran in another direction. There, Prince Junhua is there. Someone with sharp eyes quickly locked on Wei An's figure, and then all chased after him. Junhua looked at Wei An, who led the enemy away. His eyes were red, and there seemed to be tears in his eyes. He knew that this was a chance that Wei An had exchanged for him with his life. He couldn't bear Wei An's intentions. It has been 3 days since Jun Yi received the news of Junhua's disappearance. When he learned that someone dared to ambush Junhua, he was very angry. Especially now that Junhua is missing. His face is gloomy, and his whole body exudes a deep chill. The official who reported Junhua's disappearance had never seen Jun Yi so angry. And he was trembling uncontrollably as he knelt on the ground, fearing that the emperor would take anger on him. Send someone to look for it, even if Jinghe Kingdom is turned upside down. Prince Junhua will be found. Jun Yi suppressed the roar in his throat and commanded in a low voice. Here, the official below was frightened. He hurriedly stood up and hurried out of the Xinghe palace in a cold sweat. The emperor of the Jinghe Kingdom was also furious when he learned that Prince Junhua had disappeared in their Jinghe Kingdom. Although he was not afraid of the current Holy Dynasty, he was afraid that the Holy Dynasty would attack their Jinghe Kingdom after they survived this crisis. Although Jinghe now has 1 million soldiers, he is also afraid of war. The most fearful thing is to fight with the Holy Dynasty. After all, the Holy Dynasty is stronger than them. When the two sides fight, it will definitely be a lose-lose end. Who is it? Why are you looking for trouble with the Holy Dynasty at this juncture? Cheng Lin threw the bamboo slip in his hand heavily on the ground, causing the officials below to tremble, all bowing their heads and not daring to answer. Your Majesty, does this need to be said? It must be the Wangyu dynasty that is secretly doing something wrong. A minister came out and replied. Before, he thought that the Wangyu dynasty was only attacking the Holy Dynasty, so he paid them to break the salt of the Holy Dynasty. Only now did he know that it turned out that the Wangyu dynasty was fighting 2 birds with 1 stone. Good, you Wangyu dynasty, it's so sinister. Cheng Lin gritted his teeth in anger and wished he would rush to the palace of the Wangyu dynasty and beat the emperor of the Wangyu dynasty. Your Majesty, now that Prince Junhua has disappeared, the Holy Dynasty will definitely not let it go. Since there will be a battle sooner or later, why not ally with the nomadic dynasty and conquer the Holy Dynasty together? Someone came out and replied. Cheng Lin was silent. Indeed, now that Prince Junhua has disappeared in their Jinghe Kingdom, it is impossible for the king of the Holy Dynasty to just forget about it. Since there will be a battle sooner or later, they will kill them while they are weak. Your Majesty, no, this nomadic dynasty is very ambitious, and cooperating with the nomadic dynasty is simply self-defeating. An old official refused. There used to be countries that cooperated with nomadic dynasties, but in the end, they were swallowed up by those nomadic dynasties with wolf ambitions. Master Lu, if you don't cooperate now, if the Holy Dynasty survives this crisis, then our country will be their next target. The official who first proposed the alliance retorted coldly. Cheng Lin knew that if they did not completely suppress the Holy Dynasty now, then they would have a fierce battle with the Holy Dynasty. Fighting against the Holy Dynasty could only result in both losses, and then was annexed by the Wangyu Dynasty. Alliance with the nomadic dynasty, annexing the Holy Dynasty together, and then share half of the Holy Dynasty and expand the country. When the nomadic dynasty marched into the inland, there were Wangyu and Ri Yao watching. And the nomadic dynasty did not dare to encourage them to Jinghe Kingdom. It is clear at a glance which is more important, and which is more important, he said solemnly. General Wang. This minister is here. Go to the nomadic dynasty immediately. Join the alliance with the nomadic dynasty, and capture the Holy Dynasty first. Cheng Lin said solemnly. The minister obeys the order.